The following voicemail messages were sent between Michael and Andy over a number of days and contain spoilers.
You know who you call. Leave a message. Maybe they'll call you back. Then again, maybe they won't.
We're having ourselves quite a little game of phone tag here.
Ring, ring, ring. I usually get this guy's answering machine.
I'll call you right back.
If you're there, please pick up the phone. I really want to talk to you.
I check my fucking messages every day when I come home from work. My answering machine, zero. I got a blinking light.
All I have to do is pick up this phone right here, inform the cinema, and your plan's kaput.
No, I ain't got no phone. I had to pull, because people calling all the time, and who needs the aggravation, right? Interruptions.
Hey man, how you doing? Lovely Saturday evening here. Just spent most of the day wrestling with a bunk bed, flat packed. So about halfway through building that. Pick it up again tomorrow. Last night when I was going to bed, I decided to start Hot Rock, or The Hot Rock, 70s Robert Redford movie that you recommended after we watched Sneakers. I thought, I'm going to be up super early in the morning looking after the baby anyway, so I might as well start it now and then finish it tomorrow morning. That kind of worked out pretty nicely. Watched the first hour last night and then the final 40 minutes this morning at about 6 o'clock. Looking after the baby. Good solid movie. Very much kind of like a second tier movie of its era. It doesn't have that final X factor push that the likes of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly or The Godfather have, that, keep sort of push them into sustained fame. People are always talking about them, referencing posters everywhere. The score always played. It doesn't quite have that, but it's got everything but that. A few key creatives that are very iconic, like Robert Redford, Quincy Jones on the score, I think William Goldman on the script, and a very, very enjoyable formulaic movie. But yeah, just it's a bit less unique and special than the movies that we still talk about from that era. I suppose the longer you go from a decade, we're now, 50, 60 years from that decade. The longer you go, there's less and less movies that you talk about. And it hasn't entered that pantheon, but really solid movie. I think pretty much everyone would enjoy it if they checked it out. Right from the beginning, you know what you're in for. It's a criminal getting out of jail, getting out of prison. Not really any chance that they're going straight, quickly get involved with another job. It's a heist. Just very comfortable territory, I'm sure, for you as well. I suppose the unique thing about this movie is it's called The Hot Rock. Very early on, you're introduced to a diamond or gemstone or something that needs to be stolen. And so you'd probably assume, or certainly I assumed, that the whole movie is going to be the heist of that stone, which we've seen time and time again. This is the only film I've ever seen which is a sequence of heists. It's 4 heists across the movie, which is pretty cool, because when they start planning out the heist and they case the joy and they talk about this, they talk about that, they figure out what they'll need. I'm like, okay, here we go. I've seen this before. We've seen earlier movies like Rafifi. We've seen later movies like Ocean's 11. But then suddenly it cuts to the job, and I'm like, is this really, we're in it? What are we going to do? Is the job going to be an hour long, or is it all going to be about the aftermath of them, double crossing each other or something? But no, what's really happening is that this is the first of 4 jobs, which is pretty cool. Very fun movie. I guess it's a bit screwball, so there's always, I think for you and me, with anything either overtly screwball or just screwball element to it, you have to be in the right mood, you have to be on board. I happened to click into this movie, so I enjoyed it the whole way. Some of the heists could have done with a little bit more build up, but they also can't just be repeating the exact same formula every time. So I think for the most part they managed it. I liked the collection of characters we had in this movie. Like they are quite cheesy. Like there's the speed guy. Hey man, I just want to go fast. Oh, like just a classic wild card. He's not wild card in the sense of unreliable. He's completely reliable, but he's the wild guy. Then you got like the neurotic Jew character who's like, I can't even really remember what his area of expertise. He's the explosives guy, I guess. But he was funny. Like I actually thought he was a really funny character, like a really good, solid comedic performance. You've got the brother who seems like the screw up, the guy that's going to be the weak link that messes it up. And I really loved that he wasn't. I loved that we see the whole movie out without Redford regressing, like trusting his brother-in-law. It's more like Redford is cooler and suaver and more capable and more skilled and like a better criminal than his brother-in-law. But doesn't mean that his brother-in-law has nothing to bring to the table, and doesn't mean that his brother-in-law is going to be the like downfall of him. So I don't know if that was a subversion of a trope or if it was just like pre that trope really getting ingrained. But I really liked that Redford's trust wasn't misplaced, because that is a bit rare to see in these kind of movies. And yeah, considering the movie as sort of wacky as it is in terms of doing 4 heists to get the diamond, I think they actually kind of earned all of the steps along the way, really. Like it, yeah. The one bit where it looks like it's taken a really dark turn, where the explosives guy gets accidentally thrown down the elevator shaft, I completely bought that, which is always great when you buy a like fake out moment. And then when it got revealed that he actually hadn't been killed, I was really happy, because I was like, yeah, thanks for keeping the light tone of the movie. You know, we need movies with a light tone it's not like, yes, but they did a bad thing and they robbed a diamond, so eventually everyone has to start dying. It has to all end in shit. No, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's a fun, lighthearted movie. I mean, it does end in a way that's sort of like overly simplistic in a way. Like, we don't get to see what they're going to do. Are they going to, because it's kind of alluded to early on that if they double cross the African guy, that could have like pretty bad consequences to them. So what are we supposed to assume at the end of the movie? Are they going to sell it back to him? Like, are they going to go, look, okay, I know you tried to fire us, but look, give us the $100,000. Here's your diamond. No harm, no foul. Or are they going to try and fence it somewhere else for much more money? Or like, you know, it's a bit ambiguous, but it is a bit of a fun, silly movie. So that's fine. And I think that is part of like why this movie is sort of forgotten, because it's a bit slight, but yeah, it's just fun. For a movie this old, it holds up. There wasn't really much in it that you'd go, yeah, the filmmakers learned not to do things like this because this is boring or this is just not right. You know, it kind of stands up to the muster of like contemporary entertainment value, which is really good. And it's more Redford star power. I don't really think I've ever seen him and not felt that he was a compelling leading man. At any age of his career, he just kind of delivers. Another thing I really liked about the movie is that it's a really good New York movie. Now, I've been to New York a few times, but it's not a place I've lived in, so it's less like, I think we watched Night in the Sea a while back, which is set in London, and we've both lived in London, and we can kind of comment more on how well a London movie represents London. But even still, for me, like this movie, it has a few scenes, and particularly the end scene of Redford leaving the bank, walking away, and just kind of walking through pedestrians and across streets and stuff, where clearly they're not extras. I mean, it's just too many people for that. It's like a zoom lens shot from quite far away. They're clearly just having Redford walk along a New York street, and it's soaked in New York 70s atmosphere. And I think when you get a genre film, whether it's a crime film or horror film or something like that, and you take advantage of realism, like a real culture, a real place, like real people, a real sense of an environment, those two things marry so well together and just like heighten the kind of artificial nature of a genre film. So I really like that aspect of it. And, you know, that was a sort of peak of that, but throughout the movie in general, like it's just got like a real sense of city life and where they're coming from. So that was really cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's probably a few other things I can think of to say about it, but let me know what you think. I'm assuming you liked it. Felt like your cup of tea. Obviously, you're a big Western guy, and I think that this is in no way a Western, but it's kind of got that like classic tale, classic heroes, and yeah. I liked the slapdash nature of some of these heists, like when they're trying to steal the diamond from the museum, like the just swinging under things and running around. All really, really good stuff. Yeah, really, really good find, and great recommendation from you, because I've never heard of this movie and probably would have gone my whole life not having heard of this movie had we not watched Sneakers. And then you obviously looked up various Redford movies and came across it.
Hey man, hopefully you've assembled that bed or cot, whatever it is. I almost thought it would be a great idea for a mumblecore movie, just to set a relationship drama over a weekend of a couple assembling furniture and just how that strains their relationship and whatnot. I always thought it'd be a great setting because it's so fucking annoying to assemble stuff that it would actually be a great point of drama. Yeah, I actually came across the Hot Rock. I was reading an article about Sneakers, and whoever it was, I can't remember who wrote the article, unfortunately. I think it was on Letterboxd, where they refer to the criminally underrated Hot Rock is similar to Sneakers. And I thought, okay, and nobody has seen this movie, and it's a movie that time has forgot, and I'm happy I seen it. It's a good movie. I had fun. It was also very good that I seen it paired to Sneakers. And when I first saw Sneakers, I made reference to the point that I was confused over what I'm watching. And then I had it a lot more in your head that it was an early version of Ocean's 11. And that allowed me to settle down with the tone of the Hot Rock as well. So it is amazing the type of headspace you come into watching a movie, how your brain interprets it anyway. Not that this is as funny as Sneakers by any means, but there are a few moments, and mind you, this is more light than a comedy. But anyway, apparently this movie was titled something along the lines of 4 Uneasy Lessons to Learn a Heist, or some title like that, because they were worried that the Hot Rock would be confused with Woodstock for some reason. But I'm glad they didn't name it that, because I had a lot of fun with the various heists and how this movie goes. And just playing with my cat with Eliza now, she's gone crazy. Yeah. Redford, George Segal, I think, and Ron Liebman, the crazy guy in that, who I remember as Rachel's dad in Friends. That's my reference point of him. So it was nice to see him young and contrary. I feel like the team in this are very much almost like the Everton Football Club of heisters. It's it's their profession. They've been doing it for a while, but they're not necessarily setting the world alight with their level of talent. And I really like that. The movie opens up with Robert Redford. He's just getting out of prison for the second or third time, actually, it's alluded to, because his brother-in-law asks him, how was it this time? And I think the fact that George Segal, as in his brother-in-law, is seen as a screw-up, maybe more to the point that he's not particularly good at his job either. Not that they're terrible at their job, but they're all a liability in some way. Robert Redford is a liability for all his smoothness because he gets caught a fair bit, and George Segal, maybe, as we learn later on, he can't handle pressure very well. So it's more set up in my mind that they're okay at their job, but that's what they do. And I think that's great for a heist movie. I can't think of many heist movies where the team aren't so much experts as much as it's their chosen profession. And even when they're planning the heists, it's a mixture of elaborate plans mixed with slapdash, chance in your arm type planning and execution. And I thought that was brilliant. Obviously, the Ocean's 11 slickness that we have, where it's just, these people are really good, fantastic. The Steven Seagal of heists, nothing's going to touch these guys, Whereas in this, I didn't have so much faith in these guys, especially after the execution of the first heist. And Robert Redford is brilliant at talking the talk and you believe him. But after the first heist unfolds and we see the planning, what are they going to do with explosives? What are they going to do with this and that? Don't get me wrong, it's pretty clever, but at the same time, there's a hell of a lot of holes in this plan. And so it's a mixture of clever, and then there's a mixture of, it's almost like a Hail Mary, some of these moments. And it's very like we need to run in and run out, no matter how much diversion and confidence gain we do. And no more is that more signified than the three of them are lifting the glass up and one of them gets trapped in, the doctor character, and his brother-in-law is really fidgeting with the keys. For all their planning, for all their costumes, for all their execution, it's just three of them lifting up a heavy glass container to get this diamond out before they get discovered and the guards come back from a diversion. That's the extent of their heist planning. And it's so almost Chuckle Brothers to me, to you, when they're doing that glass, that it really, for me, was tense in a way, because I'm much more tense than a laser room with Vincent, what's that French guy's name? Vincent Castan? No, I can't remember his name, but he's in Black Swan and Irreversible. Vincent Cassel, when he does a dance to get past the laser. That's not tense to me. That's cool. Three guys holding up a glass who are okay at their jobs is way more tense for me. And then the guards come back, and obviously there's a confusion with the lights. And then, like you said, there's people just running around. It's pretty cool to see that that's what their plan comes down to. And then one of them gets caught. He cowers in the corner and he swallows the diamond. That's his big plan. And the next day they're sitting around happy they got away with the heist, delighted that they're described in the newspaper as assaulting an ambulance driver. Like, they're proud of that. So to an extent, they're not a bunch of knuckleheads per se, but they're certainly on the lower scale of heisters. And then when it's revealed, oh wait, he has the diamond with him and he's in prison. That was such a great wrinkle after the initial straight into the heist we get. Like you and like when we watched Rafifi, where we're thinking, oh, are we into this? Is this the heist now? What's going to happen with this? And then instead of getting the aftermath, we get another heist. And the heist is layered now because we saw how they pull off a fucking second heist, the first heist. How are these guys who are okay at their job? Don't get me wrong, they've got great ideas, but as far as the execution, it's very dodgy. It's very, very dodgy. So how the hell are they going to break into a prison now? And I also like that it's almost an ethical heist to an extent. Obviously, there's that big gag about Indiana Jones that they should make a movie where he's just breaking back into museums, robbing the artifacts that England and America and all these places stole from the actual countries. Well, in this, the setup is that the diamond is taken from Africa by colonists, and then also various other African countries have taken it as well. So it's pretty cool that you're also on their side to begin with. Not in terms of a cool getting revenge or robbed from a rich person. It's a little bit more than that. And I also like the little moments of comedy in this movie as well, where they're sitting apart from each other trying to discuss the heist, and then an old lady sits in the middle. That's hilarious. And when he has to shout back and call Robert Redford when he initially decides he doesn't want to take the job. And later on with the helicopter sequence where they land on the wrong roof, like there's great little moments like that. So then the second heist, as I said, that was pretty tense for me in the sense that I've already seen them essentially fail the first heist, and now they're breaking into a prison. And how they do it is, again, very gung-ho. They climb up that rope into the prison, and he's got the time to break out at the same time. And then I was thinking, what happens if one of them can't climb that rope? And then they rescue the guy in prison and he says, I can't climb that. Like, we're constantly reminded that these guys are almost some bit limited in what they do at every moment. And I really like that. And then they get him out. And then I'm thinking, okay, wow, that was a great wrinkle on the second heist. And then it turns out he left the diamond in the police station. So they broke out of a prison. Now they've got to go into a police station. This is almost like a lighter Mission Impossible, because they keep having to do more and more spectacular things on a very low scale. And we talked about with Sneakers, we want to see movies where it's much more smaller scale. And we get that in this. And I really like the helicopter sequence. I thought that was really cool, where, again, the guy is, Ron Liebman character says, yeah, I think I can fly this helicopter. And the fact that he's not great at flying the helicopter makes that really tense. And you can see the characters' faces that they're a bit unnerved by this. And I don't mean really tense in a Langley sequence like Mission Impossible kind of way, but just an added bit of attention to what would otherwise be a straightforward heist movie. And obviously you feel they're going to be okay, but I like the construction of every heist on the basis that these guys were limited in what they do. I thought it totally changed the dynamic, and I really enjoyed it. And just the helicopter sequence, seeing them rise and go up and go under a bridge, and they keep going. It was beautifully shot, and just the power of good, honest filmmaking, where people went out and shot this scene and shot these guys in a helicopter and took the time to really spend about 5 to 10 minutes building this scene of going around New York City. And then obviously they're going to have to land on a police station roof. That's all also in the back of their mind. And again, like I said, the gag that they land on the wrong roof was brilliant. And again, they go into the police station and it's very slapdash as well. They throw explosives at the top to distract them while going in to try and get this diamond or rock or whatever it is. And yeah, you really root for them a lot more because of the dynamic of these guys. I thought that was pretty cool. And obviously the final sequence of that, when he has to go into the safety deposit box, now it's brought to the attention there's no way they can do that because of that dastardly father-in-law character. And I also did like the fact that, it's going to take a dark turn. And they pulled the wool over my eyes because at that stage I was used to them doing a fake out here and there in smaller ways. But in this situation, I was thinking, was that a miscommunication? Did he throw him? And no, he's on the rope at the bottom of the elevator shaft. And I had the same thought as you, actually, where I was thinking, I thought they went dark for a minute. Oh no, we're still having that kind of good-natured approach to this movie. And I thought the final sequence when he just walks out and casually strolls down the street and gets into the car where they're all delighted, just totally epitomizes the good nature, camaraderie, working class heisters approach to this movie. Just how happy they are that he managed to walk down the street and just get away with it. Now, I didn't really like the hypnotist. I thought that was a bit much of a thing to throw in at the end, but obviously it's a lighthearted movie, so I didn't mind too much. But I was thinking, are we going to get a hypnotist to break into the place? Or maybe that's the 1970s version of an AI mask or something. I don't know. But good movie. Like you said, it's not one of the greatest heist movies of all time, but if someone had watched a bunch of heist movies and had exhausted traditional lists and was looking for a recommendation, I don't think you could go wrong with this movie as a heist. And there is something to, when we were talking about train movies the other day, judging something as this genre and needing that itch and judging it as a movie in its own right really changes how you evaluate things critically anyway. And obviously both ways are fine to critically evaluate things, but it's amazing the things you look for if you're looking for your fix of a particular genre that will satisfy your itch, that would work in its favor if you're looking for that, and maybe not necessarily work in its favor if you aren't looking for that. And I think one of those case in point is The Hypnotist. If you're here to watch a heist movie, you're open to a few different things, whereas if you're just watching a movie for movie's sake and something like a hypnotist come into it, you might think, nah, fuck this. But because you're very much looking for what it's wanting to give you in various ways, that, yeah, it's forgivable.
Hey, right. Bunk bed finally made. As you said, it would make a great mumblecore sort of framing device. Flat pat bunk bed. I think the movie that introduced me to mumblecore, and it's one of my favorite, maybe my favorite mumblecore movies. I think it's a favorite of yours as well, is The Puffy Chair, which kind of takes a similar tact of like, let's take a piece of furniture and then relationship stuff is going to happen as a result of this furniture. In that case, I think they're just going to buy it and get it reupholstered. But yeah, you could certainly make it anything, any kind of like MacGuffin to get them talking about their relationship. Glad you liked the movie. I think you liked it similar amount as myself. As you said, it is a movie that's definitely helped by having the right expectations and kind of accepting it on its own terms. I think if you get there with the movie and you accept it on its own terms, then yeah, it's just great fun. I don't always click into the comedy of older movies. In this case, I did. It's sort of maybe less dated than some older comedies in that regard. But yeah, really, really fun flick. I like what you said about them being kind of like okay at their jobs. They're not like awful at their job. That's not like the point of the movie. Like, let's watch a movie about people who are awful at doing their job. They're also not like incredible at their job. They're just kind of, you know what they are. They're as good at their jobs as I presume most career criminals are, which is like decent, you know? Yeah, if you consider the fact that being decent at your job is almost certainly the like average quality of career criminals. So they got far enough into their career that they wouldn't be just complete fuck ups. Like they'd actually be competent enough to succeed more than they fail. But they're also unlikely, just like people in any profession, to be like dazzlingly brilliant geniuses at doing their job. If you consider that fact, then it's surprisingly rare in cinema to see decent criminals, just like people who are okay, like kind of the level of quality that you get, that you just, if you look at people in any profession, you know, you get a plumber over, he's decent, you know, he's not going to have some sort of YouTube channel where he like is like on another level plumbing that it just captivates people regardless of their interest in plumbing. He's also not going to know, he's going to know how to do the basics, you know. So yeah, I think it's become rarer and rarer, but it was probably always fairly rare to see a good, decent account of people doing their job, doing their skill. Like that, I feel like that is something maybe cinema has just drifted more and more towards this kind of fantasy wish fulfillment, like, oh, imagine being the absolute best doctor in the world or something. And we're less interested in just seeing like good, honest, decent work. Like, it's funny, I think it really speaks to our outlook in life that we both found a way to work in like the phrase good, honest work into our into what we're saying into our respective voice notes in different contexts. But we both have an appetite for that. We both want to see just like people just doing a job, you know, just and doing it well and without too much of an ego, just kind of getting shit done. It is always great to see the best of the best. Like, oh my God, he's the best safe cracker in the world. But, you know, I actually find this more interesting most of the time, and I'm kind of starved for it. As you said, like the stuff that they're doing, like having to lift up the heavy glass, like it's so relatable. And as you said, it's you know, Vincent Castle dancing through lasers. That's not relatable. Like you get it. Like it's not science fiction. It's not like it makes sense. But you also go, well, really though? Like what if when he gets to the real location, the lasers are slightly different or something? Like there's something about keeping it really relatable that kind of sells you on the experience a lot more, makes it a lot more immersive. And I think we've kind of lost that. You know, we've in quick succession watched Sneakers and The Hot Rock, and I've really felt like in both cases I've got my fix for something that I didn't even quite know I was missing, which is like just relatable crime. I mean, crime is obviously entertaining. It's more entertaining watching people like in the kind of antagonistic cat and mouse job of, you know, running heists than it is watching someone just run a bakery or something. there's inherently more drama when there's jeopardy involved and you could get caught and stuff. But beyond that, it's just like, it's good seeing people, how they go about their work and the things they have to consider. And as you said, with every heist, it kind of, it one-ups, because you've seen that they're not quite screw-ups, but they're also not perfect. And they have blind spots, and they have a good plan, but the plan is not perfect. Like, it can actually, there's limits to how watertight the plan is, so that then when you get into the next heist, you're going in again thinking they're not fuck-ups, but they're also not, they don't have a magic wand, they don't have that kind of plot armor where everything is guaranteed to go well because they're the badass crew. And it does strengthen the drama in each subsequent heist because of that. Yeah, and that thing of, like, as you said, like the helicopter thing. I mean, we could probably pick numerous examples from this movie, but they're like, you got someone who can't fly a helicopter, but who is an expert at driving any vehicle, you name it. Like, he's not only competent in, but he's also very passionate about it. So it's got that, it's almost like the passion driving competence, which you see a lot in the real world. So you put him behind the stick, I guess is the correct phrasing, of a helicopter. You're left with, like, something that, like, I don't know if it's possible. Like, I don't know if someone who thinks helicopters are really cool has probably looked at them a lot, you know, been entertained by them a lot, has driven lots of different vehicles, motorbikes, all sorts of different things, probably read lots of books, like technical books about, like, tanks. And, you know, that's the impression we get from this guy. He's just like a bit of a vehicle head. Like, we're introduced to him listening to the sound of, like, NASCAR racing or something. Could that person badly drive a helicopter? Now, I don't know the answer to that question, but the film does enough to convince me that he could. The fact that they're waving around all over the place, he manages to get it done. I don't know if that's far-fetched. Maybe it's far-fetched, but I buy it in the film. And I've seen so many heist movies and action movies and stuff that have someone driving a helicopter, and it's not a helicopter pilot. It's always the hero. It's like Schwarzenegger or something. But I never seen a movie where the drama is not, can they fly the helicopter while they're being fired upon with a machine gun, and the helicopter's on fire, and there's rocket launchers being shot up at them and stuff like that. But just, can they fly a helicopter when they're not particularly skilled at it, and they have to take off from here and land here and do all this kind of stuff, and they have to, like, map it out as we see that goes wrong. Like, that is really, really entertaining. It's really, as you said, it's really tense. It's really gripping, and the cinematography with all these, like, high aerial shots and stuff, that, I think that's where you dropped in the good, honest filmmaking thing. They got a helicopter, they got up in it. I mean, there wasn't many options back then, but they pointed the camera down out the bottom of the helicopter. You can see how high up they are. You can see the buildings that they're, you know, weaving between. I read online that one of the buildings, I think the one that you see all the scaffolding around, is the World Trade Center. So that was being built at the time. But that's just good drama. And there's, I've now feel like I've sort of slightly got the bug from this and Sneakers. And I kind of want to watch a bunch more movies. I mean, I don't know how long before I sort of feel like I have got my fix. I can move on to other things. But right now, I'm craving more of this tactile, relatable, heist caper type stuff, where the whole thing just feels a bit grounded. Yeah, good solid movie. I agree. Definitely up for more Redford. I was looking online there and I noticed that there's a film that I've always kind of been interested in watching because it's quite highly regarded, which is Ordinary People. Now, he's not in it, but I think it's his directorial debut. I think it stars Donald Sutherland, who recently died, so maybe it's a timely watch. That is a very well-regarded movie. He also directed Quiz Show, which we've both seen, although I haven't seen it for a long time, so yeah, I'd be well up for revisiting that. Yeah, I think Ordinary People looks like a good shout because it's probably his most highly regarded movie as a director. and it's a movie I've just wanted to see for a long time. But I've also really enjoyed hitting this like diamond in the rough, forgotten classic. I mean, I think this movie didn't really do much business on release, and then didn't really establish much of a cult following. I think any good old movie has something of a cult following, but certainly hasn't got enough of a cult following that I've been hearing about it. So yeah, really nice to check it out. Great to watch it with someone as well. I mean, we didn't literally watch it together in the same room, but it's a real privilege to watch an old, forgotten movie that you know, the chances of you even seeing it in the first place are incredibly slim when you've got the likes of Ordinary People standing in its way. There's almost like an endless supply of certified classics that you could watch before you would, you know, feel the need to check out a underseen movie from the 70s. But to be able to watch it and then be able to talk about it with someone is amazing. So appreciate the bants, and you know, it's great that we're kind of doing this journey together. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking, what you reckon the next best move is for Redford.
Yeah, funnily enough there, reading up on Redford, he got his Academy nominations mostly, if not entirely, for his directing. Maybe he got a nomination for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but I think what he actually won for was Ordinary People. I'd have to double check that there, but I think he's actually been more recognized with the Academy as a director rather than an actor, which is quite astounding. I really like the quiz show All Right. That was a staple of RTE back in the day. My other Irish friend seems to be very familiar with it as well, and almost everyone else I talk to doesn't really know about it very much, except my cat who wants to get involved. Yeah, it is great, and it's an important part of movie loving, maybe, is the conversation afterwards. And I didn't realize that until we started sending messages to each other. It's almost reinvigorated my movie watching even more, because you're not just watching a movie and that's it. You're talking about it, and you're instantly hearing someone else's opinion and articulating your thoughts out loud that you haven't really fully worked out in your head until you start speaking. So yeah, talking about movies, at least for me and obviously for you, is really enhancing of the experience, which is great. Yeah, even something like this is elevated by talking about it, which is pretty cool. Don't know if that's lost in general now. Sometimes I walk out of the cinema and don't discuss the movie with anyone anymore, and then the discourse online is usually fucking bullshit. So good old honest conversation. There's a lot of good old honest things going on around this crime review or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, Ordinary People, I know nothing about the movie. Donald Sutherland, if he is in it, I've always been a fan of him despite not seeing loads and loads of movies of him. I liked his presence. I liked his sneaky face masquerading as authority. The other one that came up with this is this director, I think Yates is his name. He directed Bullet. But there's another one he directed called Breaking Away, which I've never heard of, which is a coming-of-age story starring Dennis Quaid, Jackie Healy-Ray, and a few others. And it's also a sports movie, which is somewhat intriguing as well. But kind of want to see more Redford. And what you were talking about, just seeing people who are decent at their job, it's interesting because a subgenre that I really like is just following people into ordinary lives who aren't particularly spectacular or anything, just like Patterson, for instance. We both like that movie. And he's just going about living his life. And there's plenty of movies like that where you're just following the people around living their life. And we've kind of stumbled upon something with the Hot Rock and Sneakers. I'm not saying it's as deep as a movie like Patterson, but there is something to it that everyman type of feel mixed with genre. Maybe that's what we're coming across here. Well, yeah, fascinating stuff.
You read my mind because I was literally thinking about Patterson as I was saying that. Yeah, I'm happy to go either way with the director, with the Dennis Quaid movie, or Redford's Ordinary People. Yeah, I suppose a deep cut is always intriguing because it's like, you got no context for it, but I have no context for Ordinary People anyway. So, yeah, happy to go either way. You lead the way, but definitely it's been a good find getting on this one. Yeah, Sneakers is kind of a deep cut. I mean, I have heard it referenced a lot of times, but definitely, it's not the most sort of famous movie. And then that's led us to this, which is a significantly deeper cut. Maybe we see how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Your mailbox is full. Please delete new or stored messages which you no longer need so that new messages may be received.